Today, a death, a legacy, and a quest. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, welcome to this post covering finance and property news. Well, on the 23rd of December 2021, Gill, my wife of 28 years, died as a result of exposure to asbestos and the cruel disease of mesothelioma. There are articles in a number of places, including the Daily Mail, about her story, links are below, and a story is also told in a video I made incorporating a current affair footage that was recorded back in 2021, 2 days before she died. Again, links below. In memory of her, we continue to run Asbestos Awareness Australia, a charity dual launch before her death, to help raise awareness in the community of the scourge of asbestos, which still remains in 1 in 3 homes. It kills several thousand people in Australia each year, and around 800 of which are from mesothelioma. In 2022 in Australia, it's estimated that there were around 761 deaths from mesothelioma in Australia. It's also an international issue too. According to Cancer Research UK, there are around 2,400 mesothelioma deaths in the UK every year, and in the US, it's around 8 deaths per million people. Asbestos was commonly used in home construction from the early 1940s through the 1970s as a fire retardant material and thermal and acoustic insulator, and it can be found in various household materials, including thermal insulation on basement boilers and pipes, blown-in attic insulation, vinyl floor tiles, glue that attach floor tiles to concrete or wood, some forms of linoleum, window caulking and glazing, roofing materials, usually on flat roofs but occasionally on shingles, HVAC duct insulation, usually found in corrugated or flat paper form, siding material, plaster, fibre cement, and corrugated heavy-duty panels, and some forms of paint. And most recently, it's also turned up in some children's toys and makeup products. Asbestos dust can cause various forms of cancer, but the worst is mesothelioma, which is a type of cancer that develops in the tissues called mesothelium, which lines the lungs, heart, stomach, and other organs. It is usually caused by exposure to asbestos, a mineral that is naturally found in the environment, but is broken up during mining, producing dust, which may get collected in the lungs or the stomach. Mesothelioma may develop after 20 to 40 years from some form of exposure to asbestos fibres. And symptoms of mesothelioma include coughing, chest pain, shortness of breath, abdominal pain, and weight loss. Diagnosis of mesothelioma involves physical examination followed by imaging tests, later confirmed by biopsy. Treatment options include radiotherapy, chemotherapy, and surgery. In fact, Gill had all of them. The best treatment for mesothelioma depends on several factors, including how far the cancer has spread and general health. Unfortunately, it's not possible to cure mesothelioma, although treatment can help control the symptoms, but death is a certain outcome. In Gill's case, she did DIY in her 20s and died in her early 60s, with 5 years of degraded and painful life towards the end. The best way to prevent mesothelioma is to avoid inhaling or ingesting asbestos fibres. If you work with products that could potentially contain asbestos, it's important to wear protective gear and follow safety guidelines, and always consult a professional for asbestos testing and removal. If you have been exposed to asbestos, it's important to get regular health checks and screenings to monitor your health. Early detection of mesothelioma can help to improve the effectiveness of treatments. And this past year, we've been beavering away in the charity via our website, helping people to understand how to avoid exposure to asbestos. Often we get a note of thanks after a homeowner has taken the steps to get their place tested for the presence of the fibres and to get them removed when identified. Worryingly, though, some of this has also occurred in investment property where tenants have been completely unaware that they may have been exposed. There's no obligation on landlords to test their properties for asbestos, nor to advise tenants when it's found. But less successful has been our lobbying of state and federal government entities who prefer to look the other way, and frankly, the COVID years also saw a loss of political interest in asbestos-caused disease. While those in Australia who were exposed in a trade or work setting can get some compensation, the third wave, those exposed through DIY-related activity, are out of luck. And by the way, The DIY-related deaths are on the rise, with more women being affected. So the politicians who claim it's yesterday's problem are kidding themselves. The risks of exposure are real and current, and sheets used for construction manufactured in China and imported in Australia may still contain asbestos. In fact, the ABC reported in 2021 that unions and anti-asbestos campaigners were demanding more testing at Australia's border after revelations that the deadly material is still slipping into the country despite a strict ban. The manufacture, transport and importation of asbestos has been banned in Australia since 2003. Asbestosis sufferer and president of the Asbestos Victims Association, Peter Baxter, said at the time that he feared a new generation of exposure and disease. Once you scrape it or drill it or break it, all that, you're releasing the fibres, he told 730. In 2016, the ABC ran a series of reports revealing asbestos-contaminated building products from China had been used in the construction of portable structures on a Brisbane high-rise building and in a new children's hospital in Perth. Back then, Australian Border Force pledged a crackdown. Despite calls for more testing, Border Force figures show that so far few consignments have been tested. All were tainted with asbestos, though, and in June of that year, 7 were tested. The majority came back positive. Asbestos auditor Andrew Mantle said asbestos was readily available and legal in Asia, and its fire-resistant properties meant it was used in a variety of products, particularly by manufacturing giants in China. One of the issues is that asbestos is incredibly cheap, he said. For someone who's looking for a price break and bringing in 10 container loads of plasterboard sheeting because they can buy cheaper from China, you're playing Russian roulette. And scarily, asbestos has also been found in children's toys. I kid you not. And yes, some youngsters have also died after exposure. Now, of course, industry said it's not practical to test every container coming into the country, so asbestos potentially is still coming into the country even today. The official line, according to the Asbestos Safety and Eradication Agency, the ASEA, is that importing or exporting asbestos or goods containing asbestos is prohibited under Australian law, except in very limited circumstances where permission to import and or export can be granted. The ASEA is responsible for administering the import and export permissions processed for the Commonwealth Minister, with responsibility for the Work Health and Safety Act of 2011. Importers and exporters are required to satisfy the Commonwealth Work Health and Safety Minister's discretion to grant permission, which could include consideration of health and safety risks and safeguards that could be put in place if permission was granted. So, the legacy of Gill's death is our commitment to continue to raise awareness of this pernicious product, continue to lobby government for better reforms. In fact, Gill published a series of research papers on just that point, available from the Asbestos Awareness Australia website. And our quest is to ensure that ordinary Australians are better aware of the risks stemming from asbestos. And while it's good to know that engineered stone, which has caused problems for those working in that industry, is to be banned, asbestos is still the elephant in the room. It's still killing thousands each year, and it's in 1/3 of homes across the country. And no, it's not just long-term multiple exposures. One exposure to a few fibres is sufficient, and even undisturbed asbestos continues to deteriorate over time, so there is no such thing as safe asbestos if it's left in situ. And by the way, it can take years for the disease to show. So on this important anniversary, I again want to urge everyone to think asbestos. If you are planning to do any DIY, start by assuming that asbestos exists. Test for it, and then if you don't find it, you can continue. But if you do find asbestos, get professional help to have it removed. It's a killer. I know firsthand. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.